For Finnic people, sacred ground was a hidden patch of land that was fenced off and no man could move in there without a sacrifice. Usually there was a running water with small stream in the side that probably represented the holy life source. No cattle could herd there, and not a single branch can be brought back from there. There is a single table, or a reminiscent of a table, by the time these are found in the 18th century, when nobody was bringing the sacrifice to the altar anymore. The belief of the guardian still living in the grove continued, but had taken some form of a alien concept to the local population, and the guardian is seen somewhat of a sinister being. Of course, everyone had high respect for the dead and their ancestors before Christianity pierced through the region, but there was a manner of how to make atonement with the dead to guarantee that they will look after you and your family in the future that continued to be practiced during the times of Christianity. I have spoken before how people had a seasonal concept of time, but in this veneration of the dead, the past was a big void that was seen to have a large effects to the present time. And in a linear concept of time, past is extremely important basis of everything. But let's get back to the table that is in this holy place. It is next to an ancestral tree, or sometimes there is even a small hut-like building instead of a table. This hut was for preparing a feast and having a social gathering for the spiritual worship. These huts were probably the lucos et delubra mentioned to the Pope's letter in 1229, meaning that they are houses of God that were gifted to the Pope. This practice of sacrifice survived in the food culture all the way to the early 20th century. So important was this sacrifice that it persisted through Christianity and only diminished in modernity when culinarism occupied the modern people's thoughts. The sacrifice was carried in a random day during late autumn for the harvest god Kekri. This deity, or creature Kekri, deserves his own video, but his name etymology leads us to the wheel of time. The agriculture is placed on hold for the coming winter and starts over again in the summer. So it was important time to be grateful for having large food storage that hopefully lasts for the next season. The sacrificed animal in question was supposed to be a healthy specimen that was not to be used as animal labor in agriculture, and there could not be even the slightest blemishes on the skin of the animal. This was a signal for Kekri that we need something like this even more. The animal in question was either a lamb or goat, no more than half a year old. It was to be slaughtered without shedding the wool, so the wool is seemingly lost from the animal, but to keep the animal in pristine condition all the way to the slaughter is important here. If the wool was gathered from the sacrifice, then Kekri would think that humans want naked sheep for themselves. After slaughter, its guts and blood were gathered and buried under the house's ancestral tree, so that the deceased ancestors will get their share from the coming feast. They are remembered with this gesture. Then the lamb is boiled in a pot and placed to the table as a whole carcass intact. The people carrying the lamb had to be very careful not to lose any bones while moving this boiled roast. Once again, it is a culinary that killed this tradition. This is a boiled whole lamb, not very appetizing. People want to forget this peasant custom. But anyway, this happened on Michael's name day in the calendar, which is a late autumn, although originally there was no set date for celebration of Kekri. Soon this boiled lamb was named as Michael's lamb, and the Kekri connection loosened from this custom. Before starting the feast, the wife of the house eats the soup from the boiled stock water and offers 3 spoonfuls to the ground in the barn and other 3 spoonfuls to the floorboards inside the house. So we have already had the offering with the blood and guts for the ancestral line of the family, but who are these food sacrifices for then? In the barn resides the wealth of the house, the cattle, absolutely important to the success of the farmstead. There are unknown deceased who don't have family tree anymore standing in their original farmsteads. They are known as magical earthlings, spirits that are forgotten but still exist. They are original and the lost occupiers of the nature, and they are the ones that give permission for this house to stand here, and the cattle's success depends on their moods. Inside of the house, there is of course the most important ancestor of the family, the house guardian, the first builder of the house, whose spirit resides inside the house and guarantees luck for the family. Of course, he was known as house gnomes later on, as two different beliefs got mixed together. He actually might not have any direct family connection with the family that resides in the house currently, but nonetheless, he still holds great power over them. The ritual in the autumn was similar to St. Olaf's Day that was held during the summer, probably for another harvest deity. Grains, livestock, vegetables, all had different gods ruling over them. This sacrifice survived so long because it got deeply connected to the Christian tradition. This blood ritual turned into symbolize the Lamb of the Christ. I'm going to give you now an example how this ritual turned into a communal and, by appearance, to look like an unofficial holiday. This feast was also practiced with the whole village, where the church, which was naturally the place for communal order, became the center for the gathering. Before St. Michael's Day, lambs and goats were promised for the St. Michael, and they were delivered before the festival to the chapel. The ritual changes its meaning in many senses. Instead of pristine specimens, they are either sick or lost goats that are promised for St. Michael that heal and appear at the day of the slaughter. So there's this Christian rebirth happening here. Slaughter and the boiling happens in the porch of the chapel. There's a special hole in the porch where the blood offering is given. You might think that this is not going for the ancestors, but to be fair, many of these people's ancestors were buried under the floorboards of the church during the Middle Age. The skins are also given to the church. The heads and hooks are burned in bonfire, but the meat is boiled. But it is also blessed with holy smoke afterwards. I don't know, does this change the culinary effect? And then the stew is used to boil barley porridge. The men who brought their goats also had some bread with them. There's a prayer before the meal, and the feast is started by eating the meat. Only the males took part with the feast, and females were only allowed to watch from the side, which resembles an etiquette of a hunting ritual. After the meal, bones and breadcrumbs are gathered, sealed in a box that is sunk into a nearby lake. So there was some sort of a sacrifice to the unknown deity still in this case, or maybe to keep these precious bones away from evil spirits. They didn't go for dogs or pigs, because they were obviously holy remains. So once again, the food culture stores practices from beliefs that are lost to us, like how to pass salt at the dinner table. These customs enrich our identity and culture, even though their original meanings are lost in time.